What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new tutorial. This is the third time I'm recording the intro because my voice wasn't recorded, but I want to explain it once again. Today we're talking about Google Maps and especially native implementation of Google Maps. In the past we've used the JavaScript SDK for Google Maps, which works on the web, iOS and Android just with the same code. But if you want even better performance on native devices, there's also the native iOS and the native Android SDK for Google Maps. And we can use that with the Capacitor plugin from the Capacitor community. We're gonna create this nice little implementation of a map. We're gonna create a marker, zoom, geolocation. We're gonna draw on the map. So really everything you need for a basic implementation of a map. If you want to check out the link to the tutorial right below the video, and of course go check out the Ionic Academy, my place to help you with everything Ionic. We got you covered with courses, templates, community, keeping you up to date every week on everything Ionic, so go check it out if you want to get better and faster with Ionic. But for today, let's dive into our video and create a nice implementation of Ionic native Google Maps. Alright, let's dive into the implementation, but we will actually not start here today, but in the Google Cloud Platform, because that is so exciting. No, really, we need an API key for this tutorial to make Google Maps, Google native maps work within our Ionic project with Capacitor. So first step is go to console.cloudgoogle.com and create a new project. You can simply hit that arrow and click new project, select a name, and then it should be created within a few seconds. Make sure you select it afterwards. I noticed that it's not automatically selecting that. Anyway, what we need to do now is to activate the right SDKs. And to do so, we can go to APIs and Services and Library. And from here, it will most likely already show you the most popular ones for maps. And what we need is this time not the Maps JavaScript API. That is what you usually enable when you want to use Google Maps on the web in general, which is also fine in Ionic apps. But we want to use the Maps SDK for Android and also the Maps SDK for iOS. So go into both of these entries and hit Enable. From what I know, I think I already did this for iOS. It should usually just take a few seconds, and then you're here. I'm actually not sure how you otherwise get into this submenu, but once you're here, you can see enabled APIs. It should display Maps SDK for Android and Maps SDK for iOS. Once you get that in place, you can head over to credentials. Within the credentials screen, we can now create our API key. If you click it, it will immediately generate your API key. You can just use it from here, or you can also restrict it. In our example, I will just use one API key, but for production, I would definitely recommend that you generate two API keys and then you restrict it to your Android application and to your iOS application. That will simply make sure that the key can't be used in any other place. On top of that, you can also restrict the key right here for specific APIs. So we could go with Maps SDK for Android and for iOS right here to protect it even more. I actually don't want to use that today. I don't want to, yeah, okay, it's a none, fine. So I don't want to go through all of this. You can see how to do it here. We're not gonna do this. Perhaps if you're not running it on localhost, you might, I think for your application, everything should be fine. I also configured an OAuth consent screen because I got this warning up here. I'm not sure if we really need this for the API keys or if we just need it. Therefore, I just know a few members of the Ionic Academy had problems with that in the past, so probably go ahead and click configure. You can just really leave this to the basic settings. Didn't I have like an entry about this right here? Yeah, there it is. You can really just leave it to the basic entries. You just need to insert your email and a few of these things, but really just make sure that the warning is gone in case you encounter any problems. Now we get to the interesting part, which is our Ionic application. We can go ahead, as always, with a blank new Ionic application and install the Capacitor community Capacitor Google Maps native plugin. Let's take a quick look. That's not the plugin I was looking for. This is the one. Within the plugin, you will find the status. You will see that basically everything is only developed for Android and iOS. In case you're looking for a plugin that also works on the web, well, then this might not be the best choice. This is really about using the native SDKs for a map implementation on iOS and Android. Otherwise, you could just use the web implementation. That works totally fine also on a device. We've used this in the past and in the academy. You will see a few of these things are still work in progress, but so far the basics are already working. Now we got our API key and we can configure our application. If you want to follow along everything in this tutorial, you can also install the Capacitor geolocation plugin, since I wanted to retrieve my current user location with that, and you could use it also for tracking the location. Perhaps not in the background, that's a different story. I know comments, well, please tutorial on background location. It's really challenging to implement background geolocation or anything that runs in the background. So that is maybe for the future. For today, we will just go with this and prepare your native iOS and Android platforms because we need to configure them. Let's start with Android today. First of all, we go into our Android manifest XML because we need to add this little snippet into the application block. So just somewhere under application, and you should replace this with your own key. Mine should be here, copy key, paste, and then we're fine. We also need to head over to the main activity, which with Capacitor 3 was completely empty, and I thought this procedure was meant to be, well, done automatically by now. But as of Capacitor 3, I guess it means still with Capacitor 3, this plugin needs to be registered, because really I thought that we don't need to do this anymore, but perhaps that's only for core Capacitor plugins. Well, they always worked. Anyhow, this is the usual procedure that we used in the past as well. So Android manifest, the metadata, main activity, the register plugin. Do we perhaps need to import register plugin from somewhere? Let's not hope for. In terms of the permissions for the geolocation plugin, we also need to apply something. So this is now really just specific to geolocation and not the Google Maps implementation. So let's grab this little snippet here and put it right under the permissions where we already got. I don't want any formatter. I can do this myself. Right here inside the Android manifest. That's everything for the Android configuration. Now onto the iOS configuration. For iOS, the only thing we actually need to do is import the plugin and initialize it. So in my case, I just want to do this in the earliest possible place. In your case, if you have the map in, well, let's say some other subpage, you could perhaps also do this at a later point of time. Not sure if this shouldn't normally trigger any location permission because I'm not a big fan of that right in the beginning. I just think that should work right here in the app component. Perhaps keep it in your service related to your map stuff. But what I definitely recommend is to use the key from the environment. So we don't need to put it there. Let's just add a new maps key entry in our environment. Copy over your key and paste it here. So now we don't need to worry about that. We can just use environment.mapsKey and then we're fine. That is basically the Google Maps iOS implementation or the iOS configuration. But for the geolocation plugin, we also need to specify two little entries within the plist. Can we directly go to the plist? Yeah, we can. That's cool. So that is inside iOS app info plist. You can either open it from your default IDE or from Xcode. Doesn't really matter too much. Just make sure for the plugin that you insert NS location. Always use. I should really install an XML formatter. The NS location, always usage description, and the NS location. No, that's not the key. always. It has location when in usage. Yeah, that's. And definitely make sure you're using a decent string, not the one like mine. You will most likely get rejected with a string explanation for your key like that. But in my case, I'm not submitting it, so I can do it. Okay, we finally achieved the configuration. We haven't seen any application so far, but that will change pretty soon. Now let's go into the app setup, and can I probably open a preview of my application? That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? I'll just open Xcode and run the application on my device again, so probably we're gonna see something in the next few minutes. Let's start with the home page. The only thing we need in here is a little div element which will host our map. And we will also give it a template reference so we can access it later. On top of that, we need to style this because it has by default no height. So let's just give it 50 view height. That should look fine. Also, at the same time, I might achieve, getting my screen mirrored. Well, should work in a second. And then we should finally see something. Let's, for debugging, give this a little border. Oh, that was interesting. We don't want to hear this. That's my focus sound. Border 1 pixel solid black. Okay, let's do this. And then we should be able to finally see a map. Okay, should look somewhat like this. You could give it a bit of margin. I don't know, 20 pixel. Would that work? I have no idea. Not without a semicolon. Okay, there's our map. That's good. That's the place where we now want to render our native map implementation. And because we're using a view child, so we're using, of course, the map view child, map view element ref. We can't directly create everything inside the constructor. We definitely need to wait until that element is initialized, otherwise you would run into a lot of Angular errors. So we can use the ion view did enter this time. And let's create a new function, create map, because most likely you will somehow put this somewhere else. I really like to keep the lifecycle events pretty clear or clean and just perform all the rest in the appropriate functions. Now, first of all, we can get the bounding rect from our map view. No, that wasn't. Yeah, I got it once again, but I don't have any lock connected. Oh no, that hurts. Anyway, that should print out the real size of your map view. Because the problem is we need to pass this to the Capacitor Google Maps create call. The create call expects a lot of properties. Can we take a look at it? There we got it. Basically all of these. And the width is now, and the height comes directly from our bounding rect. That was inside the documentation of the plugin. So bounding rect width and height. And basically for the coordinates, it's also the same. Now for latitude and longitude, you can do this, which will automatically center the map, but we don't have any position right now, so let's remove that. You can also specify a zoom. Let's do something like 5. That's pretty much the world. Light mode, I'm actually not sure about the light mode. Let's just remove it for now. Let's see if that already changes something. Oh yeah, we see something. We're focused, I don't know where, in the middle of nowhere here. Okay, yeah, we're right here. Yeah, of course, I need to scroll here. And that means our Google Map already works. Tutorial done, goodbye. Now, we want to do a few more things. What can we do? Let's first of all try this light mode because I haven't tried it myself. Light mode. I don't know, let's say true. What's the difference? Okay, that is the light mode. Damn, what's the difference? Light mode false. I can't see any difference. I don't know, perhaps less details? Don't know, maybe it's even still work in progress. I will leave it out for now. Let's remove this. This is only the essential. Even zoom could be left out. No, let's start in some kind of default zoom, which looks amazing. Okay, that is our create call. Let's take it a step further and use Capacitor Google Maps and listener. We can listen to certain events on our map. The first one that we want to use is on map ready, async, and there we go. Now we could also change our map type. Set map style? No, I wanted to use set map type. That's what I want. Type, okay, usually we have the normal type. If you use the normal type, I don't want to get that window, I want to get that. We see the regular, well, the normal map view. Then we could also use a satellite. I hope that's how you spell satellite. Yeah, there's the satellite. Then we also got terrain. In that case, we will get a bit different view. That most likely means I have a spelling issue. No, it just looks mostly the same, but you should be able to see a bit more details, right, when zooming in. Right, there we go. On top of that, there's also the hybrid mode, which will combine satellite and some streets. I would have to dive. Hello, this is not a hybrid view, is it? It doesn't look to me like a hybrid view. Definitely used to look different in Germany. That looks more like the normal view, doesn't it? Hello? Interesting. Yeah, that looks more like the hybrid view. Because with a hybrid view, you get the satellite plus the streets, right? In the cool German town of Klötze. Greetings to Klötze and the Ark Noah. That's in Germany. I never knew. Interesting. What we've learned a lot in this tutorial. Anyhow, let's do even more. Let's now call a function to show the current position. We go. Let's do this only when the map is really enabled, because we don't want to zoom the map into a specific location, and we can't really do this unless the map is created. So within here, we're gonna start by calling the geolocation plugin. Does that automatic? No, of course not. I really would like to have the automatic import for geolocation. Nope, not today. Ha! That was cool. From the geolocation, we can now request permissions first, because if you don't have any permission, then, well, then you can't really get the user location. Of course, I'm not gonna check this in here, so I'm just gonna straight dive into getting the coordinates. If I want to use that, I will have to use async in there. Normally you would of course check the permissions, and if the permissions are not granted, maybe it's not even going into the then block and into the error block. Could be the case as well. I will just hope that we only go into this block if we got the permissions. But then we can grab the current position, and with the coordinates that I can log but can't really show. Maybe if I use Safari to debug, well, this is going to blow up everything. Or it's going to just crash at it always, or it doesn't even show any kind of log. That is also a very valid, yeah, really. Thanks for nothing, Safari, really, you're useless. Well, with the coordinates that we hopefully got at that point, let's once again call a plugin and call add marker, because using markers is usually something most of you want to do. And for the marker, we need a latitude and a longitude, which comes straight from our coordinates that we hopefully got at that point, and a title and a snippet. That will show below the coordinates. On top of that, now let's hit save and check it out first. Okay, there's my marker. I can click it. There is my castle of loneliness. Great, but perhaps we also want to focus the camera. So we combine this now, and also use the plugin again to call set camera. And we want to set the camera exactly on this place. We want to zoom in a bit more, and because it was confusing me a lot, we need to change the bearing. That is, I think, well, it's useful for driving, so you always see the street on the map view in front of you and not north, south, west, whatever. It really confused me a lot in my application. So now the bearing is definitely, yeah, there should be in north of Germany, right? And we see we're zoomed in. I can still use that to find my castle of loneliness. And that's how you create a marker. Of course, you could create multiple markers. You can remove the markers just like you're used to from the previous implementation of our Capacitor Firebase map tracking tutorial. Now, two more things that I just want to show you. No specific functionality in this tutorial, but definitely good to know. Let's create a draw function. And most important, make that button expand full. And within that draw function, we want to create a line between 2 points. And that works exactly like this. You can add the interface as well. I just use 2 coordinates here in Germany. And then you call add polyline. You pass in the array of your points and then define all the other stuff. Really, the best way to figure stuff like that out is going to the definition and then seeing, okay, these are all the options I can pass. What does a let lang interface look like? Really just dive into those definitions. I rarely need the documentation if I can get into these. That's also where I found this. Well, let's talk about that in a second. And let's see our drawing in action. So I press draw and it creates this nice line straight from my hometown to somewhere in Denmark. If you're from that position in Denmark, please contact me. You get 1 month of the Ionic Academy for free if you're living in Finschhof. Okay, that's the drawing aspect. And of course, you can draw a lot more, like the user is moving and you create these little lines that we used in the previous tutorial. Finally, as we've already seen in the beginning, where we listened to the onMapReady event, we can listen to a lot of other events. We've seen them right here. Did tab, drag and did tab, whatever. And I just want to show you an example of one additional click handler. So let's put this, I don't know, somewhere here. And it looks like this. Did tab on place of interest with place ID. You would then get the place ID and the information. Let's quickly for this inject the alert controller. And then let's hope the places of interest are showing up on my map. Yeah, there should be something. Can I click this? Yeah. Apparently the alert is behind the map. That is interesting. I haven't seen that. How do we change that? Now my hybrid map view is gone. That is interesting as well. Okay, there seems nothing to be of interest here. Okay, it's an animal park. I either can't tap it or it's just not interesting enough for Google. Not sure what the problem here is, but definitely I was able to catch that event and display something. The alert, for whatever reason, is hidden, but I just want to show you that you can have specific or different event listeners in place. I just want to do this one more time. I definitely want to see this. Can we go back to something here? Interesting. I would have to debug this. You see the alert is somehow coming up, but the Google Map is still in front of it. We also don't need the margin and index anymore. We can just cover the whole view, which makes it look a lot better. And now we got even 2 maps because we're great developers. Anyhow, The basic usage works. I've just destroyed it now in the end to show you a few of the other things, like listening to other events, creating a polyline. There's definitely more to this plugin. You can somewhere check it out inside the Capacitor community. Give it a star, like I did just now, and follow all the other things. If you're interested in more of these, like the Street View, launch URLs, events are still a bit work in progress. So there's coming more to this in the future, but so far I think the implementation was pretty easy, even the configuration, and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy the increased performance of native Google Maps in your Ionic apps. Alright, and that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this basic example of using the native Google Maps implementation. I think it's pretty easy. Most of this was really the configuration of our Google project, the APIs, the API key, but once we got to the Ionic application, everything was pretty easy. We can follow the documentation of the plugin, we could just inspect the interfaces for even more functionalities and how to use them, and we've seen that we can quite easily combine it with something like the geolocation to focus on a specific user location. We could now also use the Google direction service to get directions. I don't know exactly how we can draw a route on that map. Perhaps that's something that we might cover in the future. We've done this with the JS SDK and the JS implementation in the past, so perhaps I've just not yet seen it inside the documentation for that plugin. Anyway, once again, if you want to check out the code, link below the video, and definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like icon so you get notified about all the upcoming Ionic videos, you know, every Tuesday this channel. I hope you all have a great week with Ionic and this Capacitor plugin, and I will catch you next time. So happy coding, Simon.